Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, we're looking at two of our personal bikes. We have a 2007 Honda CBR600RR and a 2007 Yamaha R6. So we've owned both of these bikes for around five and a half years now. And when I bought my CBR600RR, it was around $4,800. The R6 was around $4,300. In today's market, a 2022 Honda CBR is going to cost right around $12,000, and a 2021 R6 will be about the same price. The 2022 R6 is now a track-only bike, so if you want to get a new R6, you'll have to look for a good used 2021, or if you can find one that is still new. So today's video, we're going to take a look at both of these bikes, get them out on the road, see which 600cc bike is better. And we'll start off with what powers this CBR600RR. This has a 4-stroke transverse 4-cylinder engine, measures in at 599 cc's, is paired to a 6-speed with a wet clutch. For the 6-speed, all the way down is first gear, right in between first and second is neutral, and then you can shift all the way up into 6th gear the rest of the way. Now this puts out 118 horsepower and 48.6 pound-feet of torque. That is chain driven to the rear wheel. This has a dry weight of 345 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in as quick as 3 seconds. Of course, that depends on the rider's skill level. This also has a top speed of 158 miles an hour and a fuel capacity of 4.8 gallons. Now over on the R6, this also has a 4-stroke. It's an inline 4-cylinder, measures in at 599 cc's, paired to a 6-speed. However, this has a torque limiting slipper clutch. It has maximum power of 125 horsepower with 43 pound-feet of torque, is chain driven to the rear wheel just like the CBR, has a dry weight of 357 pounds. It will do 0 to 60 in around 3 seconds as well, with a top speed of 154 miles an hour and a fuel capacity of 4.6 gallons. Now as we work our way to the exterior styling, you'll notice on the CBR currently only one of the headlights is lit. The light on the right is for the high beams. On motorcycles, the headlight will always be lit when you have this bike on and running. And for the front end design, it has a very sleek design to it. But we're going to make our way now to the suspension. Up front, this has a 41mm inverted fork with 4.3 inches of travel and dual 4-piston calipers. For the rear, this is a Pro-Link single shock with 5.1 inches of travel and a single piston caliper. You'll notice too that this has a nice design to it overall. Both of these bikes come in multiple different colors. For the CBR, this color scheme was only available in the year 2007 and 2008. And then on this bike, you'll notice that the exhaust actually exits above the rear tire, coming right out of the middle where the license plate bracket is just underneath that. Over on the R6, you'll notice up front too, it has a similar design to it. On this bike currently though, you can see where the stock turn signals were located. Very similar to the CBR, that bike has an aftermarket set. A lot more gold accents on this bike compared to the CBR600. Again, just depends on the color scheme. For this bike, however, up front, this has a 41mm inverted fork. A little bit less travel at 4.7 inches, along with floating discs up front. For the rear, it has an adjustable shock with 4.7 inches and a single 220mm disc. Now on the R6, this also has the exhaust which exits out on the right side of the bike, so a little bit different. Both of these bikes are 2-seaters, so they do have the pegs for your rear passengers. And as you can tell with the color scheme, very similar with the lower section of the fairings being finished off in black. On this R6, you can also see the frame sliders, which are on both sides. And it has a very similar design to it when you compare it to the CBR600. Again, the color scheme is going to make it look just slightly different. Now, as we work our way to all the electronics for the CBR600, every bike is pretty much the same when you insert the key, and you can turn it once, just like in a car as well, to turn on all of the accessories. Now for this bike here, very simple setup for the gauges. You have the tach right in the middle. On the left side, this bike has a fuel gauge. On the right side, there's also the miles per hour, as well as the time, engine temperature, and you can go through your trip information. Not a whole lot of information, but for this bike and for what I've been doing for the last 5 years, it's enough to be able to see what you need to. Now on the left side of the handlebars is the high beam adjustment. There's also the turn signals, which you can easily activate, and then the horn is in the lower section there. You can also activate the clutch as well. Over on the R6 now, the key is going to be the exact same. Both of these bikes are very, very similar, being the same year as well, which is helpful. Now for this gauge cluster, a little bit different. There's no fuel gauge for this 2007. Interesting to see, but my brother has found it helpful to change the trips there, and you can just base it off of that. You have the time as well, your miles per hour, the engine temperature, some other vitals too. So again, very similar setup as well. Now for the handlebars on the right side, you have the front brake. You also have the starter for the bike. You can also shut it off as well. And then over on the left side, very similar setup with the high beams, the horn, the turn signals, and the clutch too. But now let's go ahead and fire both of these bikes up. So that process is very easy. On the CBR, we can go ahead and fire it up. And then as far as storage goes for both of these bikes, you're really buying this to obviously go out and have some fun. You can put a tank bag, wear a backpack, but for the storage that the bike actually has, you'll notice for the CBR, it's actually underneath where the rear passenger would sit, but it's very easy to open this up. And you'll notice you don't have a lot of space. I've been able to fit 2 phones in the back, and then all of my insurance and all of that information, of course. And then over on the R6, it's a little bit different. The key is located up underneath, and you can still lock your helmet up underneath the seat too. A little bit different of a design and a similar amount of space.
So I really like the way that the seating position is on this bike. It's not too, you're not too far hunched over. It's actually very comfortable, even on long trips. I did a long trip the other day. You can just kind of extend yourself out just a little bit. So it really is a comfortable bike. The handling on this bike is excellent as well, and the shifts are going to be as quick as you can shift. Anything, I do have adjustable levers, but that just makes it kind of a different range. So I guess you can adjust how quick you want to shift. But again, just based on your skill level, oh, we got some good turns here, is going to determine how quickly you can shift this bike. Visibility is not really a concern or an issue since you're not inside a closed space. So visibility is going to be based on obviously the driver, you know, your head position, where you're looking. So if you need to look over your left shoulder for traffic, your right shoulder for traffic as well, it's just basically wherever your eyes are located is how much visibility you're going to have. So the more you're checking your mirrors and turning your head, the better off you're going to be. Another point I'll mention about this bike is picking it up on the used market is relatively inexpensive. For a 2007, you're looking anywhere between, you know, $4,500 and all the way up to $6,000 depending on the year. So relatively inexpensive to pick up a pretty good used bike. As far as all the buttons go on the controls, it's not really hard to, you know, everything's in a good spot. I have hit the horn on accident before, just because your thumb is right there, and I have switched on the high beams, but that's just a matter of my hand position. But other than that, everything is super easy to use. And last up, I'll mention this power of the bike. I am on a city road right now, but I'll go ahead and show you a clip on some mountain roads. This thing sounds incredible when you open it up. So the R6 is a race bike that's designed for the roads. Let's go ahead and check out its power. Wow, so that gets up and goes very quickly. I got to about 9,000 RPM and I'm already well up to speed. So for a 600, this definitely has plenty of power in it comparing it to other bikes that I've ridden. definitely gets up and goes, has a lot of torque as well to get up to speed. The riding position on this seat is comfortable. As far as height goes, I'm 5'10", and I'm not really flat-footed when I'm sitting on the bike, so if you're a little bit shorter than that, you might be high on your tippy toes, but other than that, it's a really comfortable position. The base of the seat is fairly wide, so your legs are very comfortable, and then again, with those indentations in the side of the tank, definitely comfortable for your knees. And we got some nice roads here to check out the handling of the bike. Very smooth around turns, has very direct steering in it. And of course, sounds incredible. Woo. And as far as visibility goes on this bike, your side mirrors here will definitely do a great job. Sometimes you do need to tuck your elbows in a little bit to see directly behind you, but anywhere you're facing your head is really going to give you the best visibility overall. So looking over your left shoulder for traffic, looking over your right shoulder is going to be the best way to see, you know, where any traffic is, so you don't have any blind spots while you're out cruising on the roads. As far as the overall driving position goes on this bike, it is very comfortable. I'm not leaning too far down, you know, I'm nice and upright. And then all of the controls on the handlebars are very easy to use. Most bikes, it's very similar: headlight, blinkers, and your horn, and then your kill switch and engine start on the other side. So everything is laid out very well. Definitely gets up and goes, moves very quickly.
And coming back to final thoughts now between the R6 and the CBR600. Both of these have been incredible bikes for us over the last 5 or so years that we've owned them. They've been super fun to take to the track, mountain roads, even just driving around the city. Now, all 600s are pretty much going to be the same, so it really just depends on your brand loyalty, what you like the best, what feels most comfortable as well. The riding position on both of these bikes is a little bit different. So it just depends on what you're most comfortable in sitting on and riding and what you're going to enjoy. So honestly, pretty much any 600 is going to be very, very similar with some minor changes here and there. I also want to touch briefly on a 600cc being a good beginner bike. Both of these bikes in today's video are our only and first street legal bikes that we've had for the road. We grew up riding dirt bikes. We've never had motorcycles before, and so both of these were the first bikes that we've ever had for the road. And even though we have dirt biking experience, I think it's still a good beginner bike because you are in control of how much you want to push this bike. The 600cc, I feel like, is in a good middle ground between a 250 and then the 1000s, because you can get into some trouble with the 600 depending on what you do, of course. But you can ride this like normal, you can take it to the track and have fun and utilize all of that power, compared to, let's say, a 1000, where you have pretty much a little bit more power than you would need for street driving use. You can get into a lot more trouble, you can get to speeds quicker. They do have a lot more low-end torque, which is nice, but I feel like the 600 is a good all-around bike for even taking it to work, you know, driving through the city, mountain roads, and track, like I said. So these have been awesome bikes for us. We really don't see the need to upgrade or get rid of them anytime soon, because in today's market, it's going to be hard to replace both of these bikes. But comment down below, which bike would you go with and why? What bike do you currently have, and how is your riding with the bike that you're on? I hope you enjoyed today's comparison between my CBR and my brother's R6. We have that house divided between Yamaha and Honda, but it's a fun rivalry, and we definitely enjoy getting these bikes out and taking them for a cruise. So if you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.